So let's talk about the rollout because this was very interesting. Now, there were many problems when Valorant was released with people, having to change BIOS. And so effectively the rollout happens and we get into a situation where it seems like there is legitimately some of the cheaters who are trying to create fake information in order to put pressure on Riot. I think it's probably fair to say that some level of the claims that were made against Riot were people who are aggressively using PR, who were selling cheats. They have a financial stake in the cheats continuing to operate in the same way that they were previously. And so that is something that Riot has pointed to, and there probably is a level of that is happening. People are claiming that their PCs have been bricked. We saw this with Vanguard's release with Valorant as well, which is that graphics cards would be completely destroyed by the installation of Vanguard. It does require you to change to UEFI mode and TPM 2.0 via your BIOS, which not everybody knows how to do. So to your point, Yasuke, some of this is probably people who don't want Vanguard. Some of this is probably people who it doesn't work anymore and they don't give a shit enough to find out why.
Yeah.
Yes, a couple things that they talked about, that the reported amount of people who had issues is 0.03 of
which is
players.
Very high, actually.
Not only is that very high, whenever somebody doesn't specify what kind of data they're talking about, you can assume that they are manipulating the data in the way that is most favorable to them. What do they mean by players? Do they mean people who have Vanguard installed? Do they mean people who have League installed? Do they mean people who have accounts? There's no way of knowing what this information actually is. And also, anybody who's interacted with Riot support knows that they're just not a useful source to go to. So people have issues, and they're either going to contact one of their friends who's better at tech, they're going to troubleshoot on their own looking at various forums, or they're just going to give up and then not have to deal with all of this grief to play their monthly ARAM game.
Right. And so let me provide some context to what was going on, because what was weird about this and why we were talking about Reddit and the Reddit mods is that this is a post that was made by Riot on Reddit. So previously they were posting, so on their /dev, it was on leagueoflegends.com. Now they are posting directly to Reddit 11 days ago. And you may ask, why are they doing that? Well, Riot has a very weird fascination with the League of Legends subreddit, which doesn't really make sense because 10 years ago, guys, the League of Legends subreddit was the hub of communication. And I can tell you from having YouTube videos that if you were like top 3 on the League of Legends subreddit 10 years ago, that subreddit would literally drive like 50,000 views to your video. If you are in the top of the League of Legends subreddit now, it barely drives anything. I think for LFN, on a video that is on the front page of the League of Legends subreddit, it accounts for something like 1 to 2% of the traffic of that video. So my point is, there aren't even that many people there anymore, right? It has been largely abandoned. In terms of active users, you can look at this. Over the years, the number of comments on post-game threads has gone down. The number of comments overall has gone down. The user base has gone down. So it is really a shell of what it once was, which is why posting to Reddit now is so fucking weird instead of making an official announcement. And what they did was they said, hey, everyone, League team and the anti-cheat team here with an update on Vanguard. This is where they said, since 14.9 went live, fewer than 0.03% of players have reported issues with Vanguard. In most cases, these are common error codes, such as van codes, and then they list a bunch of numbers, who knows what the fuck that means, that are easily solved through player support or troubleshooting. Now, the problem is that a 0.03% failure rate is actually really high for anything that requires things to operate. So, for example, if you are saying that League of Legends has an active player base globally of 50 million people, that means 150,000 people have had issues with this, which is a lot. It's a lot.
And that's only people that have reported it to Riot support.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Which again is how they're manipulating the data in that instance, to your point. It's like I said this, like, why would I engage with Riot support when there's probably a 99.9% chance that there's someone from the Indian tech community on YouTube who's already got the fix waiting for me in a video, and I can just watch him explain it as he types it out in Notepad in 3 minutes.
Oh, to those guys, though.
Yeah, for real. That's what I'm saying. Like, where would we be without them? Like, for real.
And there's also a point that for some undetermined amount of time between the rollout of Vanguard and that post that they made, the Riot Games support site was down. And they're taking way longer to actually get tickets. And so, if you have your computer that is bricked and you're using that as a work from home computer, you don't have time to wait 3 days to get an automated response from Riot support that doesn't actually fix your issue. So people are not going there to report their issues.
And the claim was, at this point in time, we have not confirmed any instances of Vanguard bricking anyone's hardware. So I don't know about, like, Richard, you were doing reporting on this. Yasuke, you know about this. So why don't you guys go into what you have investigated? Because I don't know, beyond this point, guys, like, I don't know the results of the Vanguard rollout and what has actually been happening in real time.
So here is a brick. Right? This is an actual real life brick. This brick right here has silicone in it. And if I refine this silicone and then I do some voodoo magic rituals, I can get this to become a computer chip. Bricked does not mean that something is unusable beyond repair. Bricked just means that something is being rendered unusable, not unfixable. So if a computer gets to the point to where it cannot gain power, like a laptop that you plug it in and no power is being drawn to it, or you are unable to boot the load screen, that is just by definition a bricked computer. Yep. And there are many instances of people that not only of there's a situation that they had to address with LS, because LS, noted league content creator, he had 2 computers that were bricked, and Riot's sort of explanation for this that seems to be correct is that he was on Windows 11 and he had some software. He had some settings of some settings in his BIOS that were not configured properly, and that because they weren't configured properly and Vanguard still ran, then all of a sudden it led to those boot issues.
Yeah, I think it was the TMP2 thing. I think.
Yes, TMP2 and UEFI. And so, what's it called? A couple problems with this is that the software has the ability to determine if those settings are functional or are operatable, and Vanguard could detect if it was able to boot or if it had compatibility issues. And despite there being those compatibility issues, it still decided to install itself, and that is what caused all of these issues. So Riot is blaming LS, Riot is blaming the consumer for having the incorrect boot settings, even though Vanguard would have the ability to say, we can't install ourselves. And like they still just go about it anyway.
Well, also, it just came in the form of a League of Legends patch, too. It wasn't, I think one of the more insidious parts of this was that it didn't come with like a warning, like they did PR about it. But if you're just the average person who isn't consuming, you know, Riot Games social media or their blog posts, this just comes in a patch. You could never know this was on your computer.
Well,
you could never know.
Yeah, on the PBE, it was installing itself without giving you any notification. There was nothing that you did to say, I agree to install Vanguard, and it was installing itself. And this is after they delayed the release of Vanguard by 2 months. And they can't get most basic compatibility checks or notifications after 2 months of extra development time on the project.
Yeah, and look, to this point as well, right? Like, are we all just going to accept a company making you install a piece of software to play another piece of software, right? It wrecks your PC if you don't have these 2 settings. And by the way, the average computer user, this will probably be a contentious opinion, but it's true in my experience. The average PC user, when you start saying things like, oh, just reset your CMOS battery and go into your BIOS, their eyes fucking roll up into their skull like their fucking brand are broken. Like, they don't fucking know. They don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, depending on your warranty, opening that up and trying to do that might just void your warranty on your laptop.
Yeah,
and like there's so many issues,
especially.
Yeah. And one other thing is that there's that specific instance with the Windows 11 of those issues being caused, but people are experiencing the same issues on Windows 10, which would be a situation of these computers being bricked that Riot just does not acknowledge is happening. So it's not just that one specific configuration, and everybody who has that issue has that specific configuration. There are multiple different issues that are causing these bricked computers.
Anyway, one of the reasons.
So,
go on.
I was just going to say, if it was so blasé that, you've got to have, silly you've got to have UEFI and TMP2 working, obviously, duh. Well, if that's the case, why didn't you fucking tell me that before I installed it, you cunt?
Exactly.
Right? Why couldn't you tell me before I installed the software? Oh, that's right. You didn't fucking know. And they did this massive rollout that they didn't have to do all at once. They could have gone region by region, small little section by section, could have done, we're going to be rolling it out to 10,000 users to test, and then we're going to take that data before we do a global roll. No, they just fucking rolled it out, and then they fucking spat in your face if you went, this has fucked my PC up, and they're going, well, you've got like these weird configurations. Why are you trying to bypass your Microsoft settings? Sounds like a you problem. No, it's very much a you problem, Riot. For fuck's sake.
And this is the thing, that they did have a test on the Philippine server, which is a very small server. They did roll out Vanguard, a patch early there. All of these issues were reported on the Philippine server, and then they still rolled out without any sort of change to it. And a big thing with that, in that they already delayed it once by 2 months. If they saw all of these issues on the Philippines, if they delayed it again, that would put into the public's mind a very skeptical eye of the validity of the software if they have to delay it over and over and over again. And after something gets delayed multiple times, people are going to have a keen eye of expecting that there's going to be issues with this.
By the way, another thing I find insane is people even bothering to repeat, like, but Riot says it doesn't brick your PC. As though a Riot employee was just going to come online and go, yeah, it's us fucking all your PCs up. Sorry. Like,
don't sue us, guys. We'll fix it.
Think about how many lawsuits you'd be open to by, like, the person who is just a normal player of, like, high elo, who doesn't know anything about PCs, and suddenly his PC doesn't work. Like, that person immediately, like, what if he has a fucking, like, thesis on his PC, he can't access all that shit, So that's an obvious one where, like, who cares what they think? They're going to obviously lie no matter what. Then secondly, sadly, this is another one of those areas where you realise no one actually does give a shit about any fucking principle in esports. The only reason people cared about this topic is because LS was affected, and LS is a massive personality, and so was the drama angle. It was just the drama of, did LS went out against Riot and said they bricked his PC. Did they do that? If people don't know, LS also, like, runs boot camps for, like, people who go to Korea to play, so he's also familiar with setting up loads of different PCs. It's not like he just did it on one PC. He's actually someone who knows what he's doing. Obviously, he's set up a bazillion of them. And then lastly, I'd also just say, like, to me, the angle, that's why you've always got to, unfortunately, to make esports people care, you always have to make some TMZ level angle. It can't just be like, they could be stealing everything off your PC and ruining it. It has to be like, someone you like is affected. Like, that somehow was like, oh my God, quickly, the Bannerman call to arms. Like, and then lastly, I'll just say this. The reason why this is obviously such an incredibly relevant topic is, let's just rewind to the beginning with all the people begging for a kernel level anti-cheat. Right, let me just do the fucking scales of Anubis. Let me weigh up, right? So I really want to get rid of cheating. Now, I don't, because like Richard, when I play video games, I don't meet a cheater every other game. We know our life experience is invalid, but every shitheel that if I watched them for 5 minutes, I'd go, you're just terrible. They all know everyone's cheating. Weird how that always works, isn't it? So already, I don't think that I need a kernel level anti-cheat. In fact, the joke is, in CS, I do pay for Faceit. I just play on Faceit. So I use theirs. I actually, believe it or not, I trust theirs more than fucking anything from Riot. And then the other thing is, the obvious thing that would make it no longer tenable to have the anti-cheat would be it ruins my whole PC. Why is that not a big deal to anyone? Like, guess what? Being able to use my PC wasn't even like on my wish list. It was like the most basic requirement of a fucking functional anti-cheat. Like,
yeah. And you're never going to...
You almost couldn't fuck up worse than that. You just fucked my whole PC. You're right, I can't cheat anymore, but can't use the PC either, can I? So, basically, I'd take some Stalin level shit. It's like, yeah, if you just put a bullet in a man's head, he can't commit crime anymore, Stalin. You're right. You got me on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if that's the way we should run society.
No game, no problem. Riot Games 2024.
What's so my ridiculous. Point? Yeah, so... damn, I lost my point.
And then about LS
So about LS. You're never going to hear about this from anybody who is an active league creator. Yep. I retired in August. I took a sabbatical out to a random homestead out in Oregon, and I just realized that having league and having the league player base have such a control over my life, I could not justify giving that control over to Riot and over to the league player base. I quit league in August, and that's the only reason that I am going to be talking about that. I probably would have talked about it regardless, but you're never going to hear about this from anybody who's an active league creator, active pro, because they have a direct financial incentive for you to keep playing the game. And so this has to be something that's just like completely blind to them. They can't acknowledge any issues that are present with Vanguard because it would directly tie with their financial incentives. And so the only people that are going to be talking about it is the Four Horsemen.
Yeah, and Jessica, this is directly relevant to my experience today. So I was doing a VOD review today of MSI games. Across my channels, I had 3,000 concurrent viewers, and people were asking me, Monty, why don't you do co-streaming? And I said, I have no interest in doing co-streaming because the price is basically Riot runs a protection racket on you where they say, sure would be a shame if anything happened to your co-streaming privileges. Don't say anything bad about Riot. You know, don't poke the bear and you'll be just fine. And that's what all these, you know, all the major content creators who are co-streamers. And I said, this is an unacceptable trade-off for me. Like, I'm not going to live my life this way. Plus, I like what I'm doing now, right? And one of the things that I'm doing is this show. And sometimes I have to criticize Riot because nobody else is out there. And you're right, this will be the only show. I mean, all the time. This is
the statement of the year, right
look,
there.
Look, guys, there is truth to the fact. You could make the counter argument. Oh, Monty, you make money out of criticizing Riot. True. Right, that's just true.
Okay, ends. Okay, ends.
But
what's your point?
Yeah, these are valid criticisms that should be made of the company a lot of time. You can use your own mind to decide that or not. But this is probably the only piece of content alongside your video, Yasuke, which we will link below as well into this topic. And Richard's streaming and reporting on this. And you're not going to see it magnified because of the issues that Yasuke said and the way that they control many of the creators within the space who depend on that access in order to make literally millions of dollars. Literally.
Yeah, and look, just on this point as well, right? I've got a very special Discord. We call it the Rich Cord, and you know, there's people who've got that, like, you know, just, as I say, the good superpower when it comes to numbers. You dig? And so I had one of them do the math on Riot's claims because remember, LS had not one but two bricked PCs. He eventually repaired one, but the other was just completely fucked. It was a write-off. And so when Riot publicly say, by the way, that no one's PCs have been bricked, like, who's he? Does he not count? Like, what the fuck is this? Like, he's one of your content creators, you know? Think about how long he's worked in the space. He's very publicly tweeted. Everyone's seen it. Right, except if you only look at the League of Legends subreddit, in which case it's been deleted repeatedly. And then Riot Games come out and say it hasn't happened. So anyway, they said only 0.03% of people were affected, right, in any negative way. And so that means, according to someone on my Discord, the chances of having two bricked PCs based on all the numbers they put out there is 0.0000006%.
Yeah, 2 out of whatever 10 PCs or whatever LS has, right?
Right. So isn't that incredible with that number that it just so happened to happen to one of the most prominent content creators
it's just so
in the
unlucky
space?
when you think about it. It's just so unlucky.
I almost feel sorry for Riot. It's just so statistically improbable. It's almost as if more PCs were actually being bricked than they're talking about.
Richard,
they'd never lie.
You know, Richard, that number, if he has 10 or 15 PCs having 2 bricked, sounds a lot more similar to Yasuke's number of the decline in ranked player base of 12 to 15%. Weird. That seems like quite close.
Yeah, and in Riot's own article, they talk about how 0.7% of the player base had that bypass that caused the LS bricked PC issue. And we all know that.
By the way, technically, if you do brick 15% of the PCs, you will reduce cheating. Just by luck. Eventually. Scattershot method, but it will work. Like, you will actually do, you know, what you want to try.
Yeah, hypothetically, you can reduce cheating. So double the amount of people that reported an issue had this configuration that would cause the bricking. And there was no sort of notification that Riot would give you that this would be a conflict. So you can assume that the majority of people who had that configuration, which is double the amount of people that Riot said reported an issue, the majority of them would be experiencing this issue because there's nothing that Vanguard would do to make this not be an issue.
Yeah, and you could, if you take a very sunny view of Riot, and I have no idea why any human being would do that at this point in time, given their history, but even if you were to take the most charitable view of Riot, I think what Yasuke's points are very good because it's like they didn't even alert people that there could be conflicts that would cause potentially very harmful or time-consuming issues, right? And so at the bare minimum, we can say that the rollout of Vanguard was deeply scuffed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, I mean, yeah, unequivocally. And as I said, I think the worst part about it is the fact that it certainly appears that Riot Games, via the mechanism of the subreddit itself, actually suppressed the scope of the problems, because ultimately, if you sit and stare at the new queue, you could see there was all these threads coming up, and they were gone. They were like just vanished away, within seconds of being there. Even in the threads they allowed, comments were being deleted. And what's weird is there isn't a rule that breaks, right? There is a submission rule saying that all posts about bug reports have to include an example of the bug, the patch in which you first noted the bug first occurred, and you must describe the bug, and as long as it's not a PBE bug. They're the rules on bug reporting. So why were all of these threads being deleted about Vanguard? You could have solved this problem a lot quicker if you'd allowed that conversation to happen, and then, a helpful moderator makes a sticky post. We've identified it's your UEFI and TMP2 settings. Ensure before you run Vanguard for the first time, you have that set, and then that's that. But what that tells me is they weren't interested in resolving the issue.
It's also, Richard, just as an aside, this is also the same subreddit that every single patch for League of Legends has sticky bug threads for people to report in.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And it's now deleted in that thread, but it did originally say, hey, this is not a place for any tech support. If you have any issues with Vanguard, go to this other subreddit that we conveniently created 11 days ago or so, and go here. And also, discussion of Vanguard here is also banned. So they have their little place where they try to scurry you off to, and it's also banned there.
Yeah. It's what is the purpose of that? And it looks to me to be that if you can sort of hermetically seal off, this is the one area where you are going to discuss it, and we are only going to discuss it with official input from Riot staff members, and anyone who posts anything ranging from "it did this to my PC" or "fuck you, I won't install it," we're just going to remove that messaging. Now, fortunately, it did spill over onto other large subreddits. It got a subreddit drama post. A few, other subreddits noticed that the mods were deleting all of these threads, but not a single reporter, once again, incredibly, decided to make part of the story. Right? Riot Games is saying it doesn't brick your PC. Here's the evidence it does. Why are Riot Games lying, though? And why are the Reddit moderators, these independent beings that totally don't work for Riot, why are they cleaning up Riot's mess? And so no journalist ever writes that up. It's always, well, Riot said this, and you can read more over on the subreddit. Mm-hmm. What about all the deleted comments? What's going on, guys? Why does no one want to tell the full story on this?
And this will also go into the point that It's GamerDoc posted, not the one that allegedly abused Danny, the other GamerDoc who is the anti-cheat dev.
Don't get me started on him. He's a fucking fugazi. I've talked about this before. He is a guy who postures publicly as being an anti-cheat expert, which, by the way, I would expect you to be some sort of coder, like you just there all the time, 20 monitors, numbers. That's what I think, right? When you tell me you're an anti-cheat expert. This guy, right, by the way, who says he works for Riot don't even acknowledge him sort of publicly or talk about him ever, but he does apparently have a relationship where they give him money. He runs a snitch Discord, right? Where people sit on that Discord and try and infiltrate other cheating communities, then say, oh yeah, they do this, and by the way, I've signed up to this and this, and then he passes that on to Riot.
Yes, I talked to a bunch of people in the scripting community for sort of preparation for this, and there are people who are in a bunch of scripting Discords who have had monetary offers to give me your Discord account, and then I will give you a bunch of money.
Yes, correct. Yeah, this is how the game is played. So GamerDoc is like, oh yeah, we've caught all these cheats. Because you see, before Riot even employed him, right, he used to call himself the cheat police or something. He used to have this Discord.
Anti-cheat PD.
Yeah,
anti-cheat bad PD. Names just go to this guy like a magnet. GamerDoc, the cheat police.
Yeah, I know, but this is what I mean. Like, it's like he was cringe. Like, you have to understand, how does someone like GamerDoc get born into being? Again, this GamerDoc, not the other GamerDoc, right? Like, really
cursed name in general.
They maybe in the future we'll get a competent GamerDoc, right? Who knows? knows? Maybe one day. Anyway, but look, right? So, how does someone like him come into being? How do you end up creating a Discord called the Anti-Cheat PD, where you and a bunch of teenagers are like going, I'm going to infiltrate it, like you're fucking on spy game shit, right? And like, we're going to infiltrate this Discord and find out how, we've got an account now. We're going to rat them out. We're going to snitch them out. Fuck cheaters, yeah. That is a guy, by the way, who was so chronically dog shit at every video game he ever touched. His brain broke, right? And he makes a Discord obsessing about cheating. This is the other, like, totally unspoken part of the dialogue. The people that very often are calling the loudest for, like, anti-cheat measures, they've been driven to the point of becoming unhinged.
Yeah, it's clear.
By being bad at video games. Think about Vax Sucks. Vax Sucks is still waiting for the fucking vaccining from 2014 to end. Like any day now, it's like waiting for the fucking rapture with those dickheads. And it's like these people objectively don't interface with reality. And then you're telling me he's the guy that's giving all the info to Riot? Oh, brilliant. Brilliant.
That's one of the reasons, if you don't know, guys, why even though obviously people like me and Richard care about cheating and don't think it should be allowed, and especially not in the esports scene that we've been a part of for like fucking 20 years, but one of the reasons we can't ever give fucking credence to a lot of the popular anti-cheat fucking rhetoric is the people you choose as your champions show you're a cretin. Like the guy that I won't even mention his name, the most famous person, not the Dan M guy, that was years ago, guys. He was more like a fucking meme. The really famous one who made all those videos. If you don't know, there's a reason why no one ever discusses like the idea of pros cheating anymore in CS, even though that used to be a massive thing in CSGO. And I'll tell you the reason why. You ready, Monty? It's fucking amazing. Because this guy did this whole series of videos where he would analyze different micro movements you'd make when you aimed. And here's where he done fucked up. Because what he decided was that this certain type of a jiggle that you would do after you shot was proof you'd just used an aimbot. Do you know why it fucked him and no one ever talked about him anymore? Because Simple did that move after every AWP shot he fired in Counter-Strike. So logically, this guy wasn't just going, there are some people cheating. His logic was the best player ever cheats. Essentially, Mouse 1 is just an aimbot for this guy. So at that point in time,
I mean, it might as well be.
When you then come along and go, see, this is a really important cheating issue, no one's addressing it. It's like, you idiot, you're the one who's made it now a risible topic that no one cares about because you picked the wrong fucking choice, haven't you? Like, that's nonsense.
Yeah, it's even worse than that. There was a game, so he would basically, everyone he ever looked at was always a cheater. That was the other part to it. And he would like say, if anyone wants me to investigate a player, just recommend them to me and I'll look into it. And people would say, oh, look at Glaive. And he'd be like, yeah, he's cheating, right? So he released like a compilation to show how widespread these aimbots were, again, using the same principle Duncan outlined. And he had, no joke, a clip of Zeus, the coach, standing in for his team when he was on Team Liquid, and in a game where he went something like 4 for 18. And he used him getting this like one kill and went, look, he's jiggled. Well, I want a fucking refund on that cheat, mate. If I'm going 4 for 18, you silly bastard. What are you talking about? So yeah, I mean, that's the problem, unfortunately. A lot of the people that go down the cheating rabbit hole, it's like anything. They're basically on some QAnon bullshit. Yeah, you know what I mean?
And so it's GamerDoc, the person that you're saying talks, he advertises himself as a professional gamer, somebody who is like gold equivalent in the games that he plays, and brags about these like $50 cups that are like go for Overwatches that are essentially tournaments that you could play with your gold friends. He like brags about and like advertises himself as winning like 3rd place in those. And he's calling himself a professional gamer. But to the point of what he's saying, first off, people who are in the cheating community, but not necessarily the script devs who make money off of it, people assume that he probably is correct about 60% of the things that he says, and 40% of the things are just straight up fabrications. But a specific point that he talked about is the idea that, all of these cheat devs are like making all of these fake posts on social media. And there's all of this implication that anybody who's talking negatively about Vanguard is actually secretly a scripter. All of these streamers who have had to reformat their hard drives to get everything set up, they're all scripters. Everybody is a scripter, and there is no genuine posts about this. And
You know, they're this close to just doing the obvious move, which just closes the whole discussion. Just going, actually, we've got advanced AI technology that just detects if you were going to script and then bricks your PC. It's like, that's the genius angle. I'm just giving you the angle of Riot. Just come hit me up. I'll write up the fucking PR statement for you.
Yeah, and so the thing they talk about is these scripters have a financial incentive to be anti-Vanguard, but why is that never brought up the other way? Riot has an infinitely larger financial incentive to create fake posts that are spreading like misinformation about things that are happening with Vanguard. And they also have the Reddit subreddit moderators who are like helping them. And they have so many other levels of access to be pushing this sort of like fake idea that Vanguard isn't as bad as it is. So if there are fake posts from cheat devs because they have a financial incentive, why wouldn't there be more in support of Vanguard? Like, why does Riot have the assumption of everything that is said that's pro-Vanguard is legit, everything that is anti is not legit?
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.